When the you-know-what hits the fan, how does your party react?
Are they more of Captain America during the Battle of New York during the Avengers movie? Or is it a little bit more like the Bad News Bears when they first started playing baseball together?
When should your gaming group even have to worry about this?
Join us as we discuss getting more out of your D&D party. Welcome to Nerdarchy, for nerds by nerds. I'm Nerdarchist Dave, and today I'm hanging out with this nerd.
Nerdarchy Ted. And today, we're talking D&D player tips, party tactics, and cohesion.
Do you want practical D&D content and advice you can just drop right into your D&D games?
If the answer is yes, then don't forget to hit that subscribe button and attune to that notification bell so you don't miss a single video.
So we had a request to talk about D&D party tactics and having a cohesive adventuring group.
All right, so I guess we have to start off with a disclaimer here.
Sure, I mean, this is completely an opinion piece, and this is advice for people that are interested. Maybe they'll go through this video and you'll decide this isn't for you and your group, and that's not how you play. And you could tell us all about how you do it in your game in the comments below. The thing is, it's totally optional. If party cohesion and combat tactics aren't a thing that your group is worried about, you can totally disregard it. These suggestions are all optional.
Now, we have gotten over the years, in the comments, emails, social media, players who, come to us and say, hey, I got a problem in my game. How do I make my players do? How do I get my, my party to do? There's lots of things that can be filled in the blanks. Here we're going to talk about different ways that the party can all get along and how you might be able to get more out of it.
We got to start with what actually is, the D&D party cohesion or D&D party tactics. What does that even mean?
Well, I mean, I guess it's going to break down even further, into in combat as well as out of combat. In combat, you've got things that effects are going to stack, or different tactics are going to synergize. You've got different actions that can be taken, different spells that can be cast. So there's different ways to be more helpful in combat. But there's other things that can be done outside of combat.
Yeah, outside of combat, to me, it really means kind of like staying in your lane, right? If you have a party face character and that player has dedicated a lot of resources and mechanics in the game to doing that thing, well, if it's not a specific moment meant for your character, don't try and jump in front. Like, don't try and jump in their lane and hog the spotlight. Let their character do what they were designed to do. Because more than likely, those characters have other areas where they don't shine, and that's going to be your opportunity or someone else's opportunity in the party to step forward, basically take over the spotlight for that instance.
So speaking of spotlight, how about we spotlight the sponsor for this particular video, and that's going to be Hero Forge.
Ted has actually finagled a deal for you guys where he's been given 3 promo codes to give away, which we're going to run a Gleam contest. There's going to be 3 different winners, and you're going to be able to go over to Hero Forge and build your own party from the ground up.
Hero Forge, if not particularly familiar with them, they are a miniature design company, and you have the complete ability to go in and design the miniature down to all the little nitty-gritty details, how they're positioned, what they're holding, what race. And if that is not enough, every Tuesday throughout the year of 2019, they are adding new features, new items, new positions. There's always going to be new content every Tuesday. Hero Forge is a company that I've been using for years. I've bought way more minis than I should from them, but they are super awesome. I love everything about it. And there are many times that I'll just sit and, I'm like, I need something to do right now. I'm bored. And I'll go on to Hero Forge and I'll start, making up minis. I've made, characters that I LARPed. I've made characters from novels. I've made characters, for current campaigns and future campaigns. And I just have lots of fun playing around with it. I think you will too. So go check out Hero Forge. As Dave says, we're going to run a Gleam contest. 3 winners are going to get a promo code that's going to cover the cost of the mini and worldwide shipping. So 3 winners are going to get to make whatever they want in a regular plastic miniature and it'll get shipped to them for free. So go check out Hero Forge. The link to Hero Forge and that contest is going to be down in the description.
Yeah, nearly every gamer I know, whether they buy Hero Forge or not, they at least go to the website and play with the character builder over there because it's just a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
So now getting back into the video and discussing, party tactics and cohesion, I think we should look at what level experience player is this for? Not experienced player as in level and experience in the game, but how much experience do they have with tabletop role-playing games and Dungeons and Dragons in general?
So, I mean, we can break this down to a beginner, an intermediate, and an advanced. And, depending upon, where you fall into how much time you've spent playing D&D or RPGs in general is going to determine where you really fall on that.
Now, step one, I would say for the beginner anyway, is just knowing what your character can do. That, and that's like the perfect place to start. And if the table is full of beginners, the only thing you should really worry about to start off with is just understanding your character and how your character plays. And maybe you have other players in your group that aren't as knowledgeable as you, and that's okay, and it's fine. And I would recommend letting them come along at their own pace until they, figure it out. It could be a lot to take in if you're new to role-playing games.
So this is where you talk about staying in your lane, can come into play. Learn your character, learn your abilities. Maybe before the game starts, reread what you've got. I've definitely seen players who have been playing, for multiple sessions, like, oh, I didn't know I have that ability. I've watched other games, and I'm like, wow, that's really cool. And I later learned that, oh, everyone of that class gets that ability, and even at a low level. And I'm like, well, don't I feel like an idiot? But there's lots of things that you can do to become a better player by just knowing your character.
It's a huge help. And if you are one of those more advanced players and you want to help a newer player, the only thing I would say is get permission first. Ask them for permission. And I feel like most people would. But, just by doing that, it changes the whole dynamic of the conversation.
Absolutely. So I guess the next is going to be intermediate. And obviously this is where you've got a little bit of experience. So where do we go next?
So as far as intermediate and advanced players, they actually kind of go right together on this instance, in my opinion. And that is because you essentially know what your character can do. And, depending intermediate to advanced, you may also know what the other player characters are capable at the table as well. So this is where you as a party begin synergizing and meshing your abilities. In my own game that I've been running for the past 5 years or so, the battle master is always giving the assassin, an extra attack, which at the very beginning of an encounter is devastating.
Those powers combined, it really does make for a lot of damage that they get the ability to throw out there. So sometimes some abilities do really work really well together. And if you figure out how those things connect and how those pieces of a puzzle fit together, then you've got the ability to actually impact the game more than just the pieces standing alone. Together, they really are stronger.
Right. Another great example would be oftentimes you see warlocks take Devil's Sight, and then they, with the intent, they want to use darkness to, put their opponents at disadvantage. They gain advantage. The problem with this for a warlock is they don't get a lot of castings of spells. But what if the cleric or the wizard or sorcerer or any other spellcaster in the party were to actually cast the darkness for them? They get a lot more castings. And then also the warlock doesn't have to worry about concentrating on that ability. They could do other things. You're helping the party. You're also creating an area of concealment that on your side of the battlefield, your team, there's only a person that can actually see through it. So that gives an advantage. They can act as a spotter calling things out, or they could just go to town and just be fierce and wreck house within that darkness. But they will also have many more options because now they don't have to concentrate on the darkness spell, and they can cast other spells and use their spell slots for other things.
Absolutely. So these are small little pieces of a puzzle where working together, planning your characters outside of the game, even you can talk about abilities and how the characters might mesh and work together, in combat. You have to understand that we live the lives of these characters in such short times, and the characters themselves, they live their lives. When you travel for an hour, well, what happens in that hour? Do you really walk in silence, or does conversation happen? In some cases, silence might happen because you need to be stealthy.
Ted, forget an hour. Like literally, we
Well,
will play a session for 4 to 5, 6 hours, whatever, and the characters, just a portion of that, will travel for weeks together.
that is true.
Like, so you could like even expand on that even further. What are they talking about? Do they know they're going to be in dangerous situations together? Why would they not be like, well, what can you do? Oh, this is how I do things. What do you think about it? Do you have an actual leader in the group who is actually a tactician who it's going to take all these puzzle pieces and try and put them together?
I was going to lead up to that, but you battering rammed your way through. But it's absolutely true. There's no reason why, the characters would not have a conversation. And, you pull out your character sheet just like a wizard would be pulling out their spell book. It's like, well, I happen to know this and I happen to know that. And unless you're purposefully playing that secretive character that's like, no, I don't want to share, and I don't want to assist the party, like there's no reason why you wouldn't be doing these things to maximize, your tactics.
Well, and that's a thing you can do as the player, but the thing you can do as the characters is you can actually have role playing discussions in game if you wanted to. When you're setting the watch, you guys are having a meal, or you're taking that midday break, you're taking a short rest, and you want to do some role playing with each other. This is a good place to do it, especially when the party first comes together.
Absolutely, it's a great session one kind of thing that would naturally happen. Any intelligent group would be like, all right, we need to know what skills we have. Who do we set for this? Who do we set for that? Only makes sense to me. We've touched on a variety of different ways that you can, achieve party cohesion in combat. But Dave, how do we go about getting party cohesion out of combat?
All right, so this can be a little bit trickier, and a part of that is we discussed earlier was kind of like staying in your lane. But another area where where you're talking about party cohesion, and this isn't really tactics per se, but it's like inviting the other players at the table to role play with you when there's things going on, and say you're the face character and you're discussing a diplomatic situation and something gets mentioned, and so your character, the face character, turns to the wizard who is studied in lore and history and go, hey, what about that event? What do you know about that? And what it does is it's opening up an opportunity for the wizard to use their skills, but not just that, for them to role play with you and the other NPC. And you might discuss that for a little bit and been like, oh, well, that involves, this famous battle where they use this tactic. And that player may then turn to the fighter battle master and be like, you are all about tactics and battle. You're a master tactician. What do you think? Is that still a valid maneuver? Do you think the army that is approaching would use that, or would it work against them? Can we learn from history and have it repeat itself in a good way for us?
So conversation. Well, maybe we need to check the terrain. We turn to the barbarian or ranger and say, hey, what do you think here? So you've got the ability to pull, multiple characters into a conversation. You've got the ability to really reach out and get the certain players involved.
I mean, even in my own game, the Goblos do that in a very backhanded way with your character all the time, because he's a knowledge cleric, but they always call him the wizard. And let's ask the wizard. Let's figure out this information, which it's a little bit of a comedic effect within the game, but at the same time, it's still them going and bringing your character into whatever's going on, for better or ill, for Aurelia and your character.
There's sometimes I question, how that group manages to stay together just because of the sheer absurdity of it. But we work well together. We understand the party tactics, or the character tactics of being together. So, maybe in and of itself, it's like, what? We've got this job, we've got this mission, and we're going to see it through to the end.
Yeah, so for Out of Combat, just to wrap it up, it's basically just extending the olive branch of role playing to the other players at the table as often as possible, and also talking to each other, role playing with each other. That these are going to build bonds with your characters and just make them a stronger unit together inside of combat and outside of.
Absolutely. So definitely recommend you follow these easy steps and work together. But while you're doing that, make sure you remember to stop by the description and check out that link to Hero Forge and that Gleam contest so that you have a chance of winning your own mini.
And while you're down there in the description, you might as well keep on going right to the comments. Let us know what you think. Let us know how this works in your game and with your adventuring party. We'd love to hear about it. While you're there, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
So until next time, stay nerdy.